So after watching The Yellow Sea, I realized that it's not so much a movie, it is more an experience that will break down most of the fibers of your being and just take you through this roller coaster of gut punch after gut punch that will leave you, in many cases, feeling very hollow and empty. And yeah, let's talk about that. So the Yellow Sea, as you can probably tell here, is a crime drama following a man who is essentially trying to pay off a debt that he owes while trying to find his wife, and just all of the problems and all the catastrophes that go along with that. This movie, if you have not seen it, but have maybe seen some other works from the director, Hong Jin Na, he was the writer and director of The Wailing, Chaser, and he was the writer for one of the writers for The Medium. So he has a pretty good catalog of amazing movies that I feel like you should check out. As the movie gets going, we're introduced to our main character here, Junam, who, if you recognize him, what also starred in the previously mentioned The Chaser, and he was also in Handmaiden as well. We join him as our main character, and he is the one who is in $60,000 of debt to different various loan sharks, and he is trying his best to work while getting to pay off the debt. And we learn pretty quickly that his wife went to South Korea to also do work to pay off the debts as well. The only problem is he is a degenerate gambler who will work himself crazy trying to make money to pay his debt off, pay off a little bit, and then he will go to a gambling hall, and as with in most situations, he will just lose all of it. The cycle pretty much repeats itself over and over and over again. We're never really told how long his wife has been gone and how long he's been paying these debts, but we can deduce that it's been a long time because he is openly mocked by everyone, saying that his wife left him and is cheating on him because she didn't want to have to pay off all of his debts. As this is going on, we're introduced to the antagonist right here, Mayun Ga, I believe I'm saying that right, his character's name right, but he is essentially a crime boss who gives a task to our main character here, who, if he goes to South Korea and kills a professor, he will essentially be, the debt will be wiped away, but he will also be paid to do this. Now, anyone who is not in in a character in the movie knows that this is going to go horribly wrong and will backfire tremendously on him. After a little bit of convincing and thinking about it, he decides to take the job to go to South Korea because, coincidentally, that is where his wife is or should be, and he is going to see if he can find her as well and try to convince her to come back home, especially because if he does this job, then all of the debts will be forgiven. So as the movie's going on, he makes the deal with the devil and he goes to South Korea and spends a couple of days trying to find information about his wife while basically scoping out his target to see the best time to do this. And it actually really shows the character's intelligence because he's able to check blind spots with motion detector lights, cameras, things like that, get everyone's schedule down, and he does it very quickly, which kind of pulls at the idea of he's just an innocent man who got into a bad situation, or is there something that we don't know? It's never revealed, but he's very good about collecting this information. So as he goes on, he gets some information about his wife, and the job itself goes horribly wrong. I'm gonna try not to divulge too much because I don't want to spoil much of anything. However, everything that can go wrong pretty much does, and it's a nonstop slog of him being betrayed by everyone and trying to undo everything that's going on around him, even though you learn very quickly that he is very powerless to do so. From beginning to end, the movie is very dark and is very bleak. And I will warn that especially the first half of the movie it takes a minute to get through it. It's very slow, and for me, I thought that the movie being at like 2.5 hours was way too long for what the movie was. However, it does allow you to kind of sit with the weight of everything that is going on with the characters and just realizing how hopeless and just how horrible their situation is and how they process it. It does hold me back because I particularly do not like when movies crawl to a slog and then pick up and go down. That bothers me. But in this case, I understand it because, like I said, for me, it puts you in the mindset of the characters themselves, so that you feel the weight of what's going on and you feel the dread of the choices that they want to make, but they can't necessarily make just because they're powerless. Now, I will say, like, the last quarter of the movie is when things ridiculously ramp up. The violence is chaotic, it's messy, and it is brutal. It's very brutal. The amount of hacking and slashing, it takes me back to some fighting games as a kid, but it's a lot to take sometimes. But you got to roll with the punches, because you've been going through all of these things with the characters, so you want to see a good outcome, if it's even possible to have one. But based on just how things are going, the movie is very bleak, very dark, and it really tackles just people being exploited and just what they have to go through and what they have to tell themselves they have to do to make their situation better, even though in most situations where people are being abused, taken advantage of, trafficking and things like that, it's very difficult to have anything positive happen from that. In spite of what I've said, the movie is very excellent. It's very well shot. The cinematography is great, just because, like I mentioned, it's very grimy, very down in the dirt, so you understand what the characters are dealing with. And the action, while chaotic, really matches with the story well, because even the good guys in the movie are pushed to points to where they will do things that they would normally never do, and to where they, maybe not from like an overall moral point, but from their actions, they're no better than the evil that they're trying to avoid. And yeah, and I say that knowing full well that they're pushed to those points, but it's just it's very hard to explain. It's a good movie to watch in terms of how well it's put together, in spite of the fact of how bleak and just downright depressing it is. But it really gives even though it's a fictional movie, it gives an insight to how desperation really takes over whenever you're in a situation that you're powerless in, against people who have a lot more power and ability to get things done than you do. All right, I can't talk about the movie anymore, because at this point I'll just start spoiling everything. But right now, The Yellow Sea is on Tubi, so feel free to give it a watch. It's an amazing movie, and you won't be disappointed. I gave it an 8 out of 10 personally. The main thing that kept it from being a 9 or higher was just how long the movie was, in spite of the fact that, from my personal standpoint of the movie, I understand why it's so long, but it's still, when it drags, it does drag a bit heavy, and so that you gotta take that into consideration. But even with that, the movie was still phenomenal. Acting's amazing. The action was, while brutal, it was great to watch. And just the fact that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's a good movie to watch, and I recommend it to anyone who loves Korean cinema at all. So if you've seen it or watched it after this, let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation. Take care.